Hello, my name is Samina Merchant, and I have a student with me today. Her name is Isha Merchant. Say hi, Isha.
Hi.
Isha is going to help me with the social studies content, and I'm going to take Isha through a PowerPoint in social studies, and I'll be testing some facts with Isha to see how well she knows the subject. So, Isha, I'm going to share a screen with you, and let me know if you can see that screen. Are you able to
I
see?
see it.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and review some of the facts that we know. So our first slide is about political systems. And from this slide, we can see that there are several different political systems that we have in governments, right? Do you know of the first one that exists anywhere around the world?
Yeah, a form of government which all the law-making power is given to one person who has received such authority, typically by birthright. It's called a monarchy.
Okay, so do you know where a monarchy is anywhere around the world?
Great Britain.
Great Britain. All right, very good. Okay. What kind of form of government do we have in the U.S.?
We have a we have a representative democracy
Okay, we have a representative democracy. And what does that mean?
that we have people that represent us and we also vote
Okay,
on like presidents and stuff.
okay. All right. Can you see the PowerPoint again on your screen?
Not right now.
All right. Let me share that again with you. So speaking of governments, we have another form of government that is also used throughout the world. And so the next one we're looking at is a dictator. So do you know of any countries that have dictators?
North Korea.
North Korea, okay, they have dictators. And what does a dictator do?
He is a main individual ruling the country who is not restricted by constitutions or parliament. So he doesn't have any government or anything to back him up.
Do you know of any names of who are dictators?
Saddam Hussein.
Any other people?
Yeah.
Okay. World War II?
Adolf Hitler.
Very good. All right. Okay, next slide. This is talking about constitutional monarchy. So, do you know what that means?
A constitutional monarchy is a form of government that consists of a monarch in addition to selected representatives who runs the government.
Okay, so what do you say? Do you remember or do you know of any points in history where there has been a constitutional monarchy?
Well, Britain has a constitutional monarchy.
Okay. Maybe like from ancient history, do you know?
No,
How about the Greek civilization?
they had one.
Maybe like the Greeks and the Romans, there was
No, they didn't.
no?
They had a democracy. The Greeks had a democracy, and the Romans had a
Representative
representative.
democracy. Okay.
No, no democracy. It was just a representative.
Just representative. So there was no king, nobody that you can think of?
They
Okay.
had priests and stuff.
Okay. All right. Let's go through the next. So next one on our screen is oligarchy. So do you know of any form of governments where you see that oligarchy is practiced?
They're very rare, so none of them are around right now.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's talk about the Constitution. And when we talk about the Constitution, we usually talk about we have different forms of government that we talked about, but when we talk about the Constitution, why do you think the Constitution was written?
To protect the people's rights.
Okay. And what do we have in the Constitution that you know?
The Bill of Rights.
The Bill of Rights. Okay. And if you look at the screen, what do you see?
I see the U.S. Capitol, the White House, and the Supreme Court.
Okay. So which one is the lawmaking body?
The U.S. Capitol.
Okay.
I mean the White House.
Okay. So what does the Capitol do then? What's its function?
Okay. The Capitol sees if the law fits the Bill of Rights or the Constitution, and they vote on it if they think it works.
Okay.
It goes to the Supreme Court. They don't look at the Constitution. They just they vote on if they want to move on the law,
Mhm.
and then if their 3/4 vote wins, it goes to the Supreme Court, and they justify if
That law was
with the law, if the law was, I'm so sorry.
if the law was ever implemented, right?
Mm,
Before in history, right?
No, if the law matches the Constitution.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we've called these functions what? We call this the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. Okay, so we know that under the legislative branch there's the House of Representatives and the Senate, and then under the executive there's the president who also picks the vice president, and under the judicial we know that there's 9 Supreme Court judges, right? Let's go through the next slide. And again, so this one is talking more about the legislative, executive, and judicial. So legislative is the one that actually makes the laws. So that's the one with the Capitol building that we saw. That's the one that actually makes the law. The president actually approves the appointment. There's 2 senators from each state, and then there are 435 representatives, meaning that each state, if there's 50 states, then 2 senators from each state would give you how many senators?
100.
100. And then the number of congressmen is based on the population. So if we live in Texas, and Texas is a pretty big state, then that means that we would get a lot more representatives than a smaller state like New York.
Like Connecticut.
Right. And then when we look at the executive branch, the president actually signs the laws or vetoes the laws. He actually also pardons people. He can appoint federal judges, and the president is elected every 4 years. And the president serves 2 terms, right?
It can serve 2 terms if the people want to re-elect him.
Very good.
Okay.
And the judicial branch is, like you said, that if they decide if the laws are constitutional or not, they are appointed by the president. There are 9 justices, and they can also overturn other rulings that have already been set prior. So now we know a lot more about the executive and legislative and judicial branches. And right here, we have a checks and balance system in the U.S., right? So that means that, what does that mean? What does the term checks and balances mean to you?
It means that it all has balances somewhere, and it checks if they're all in play.
Meaning like what? Can you explain a little bit better?
Say if the Congress passed a law without going through the judicial branch, that wouldn't be checks and balances, because they all have to balance out in the end.
One cannot do something without consulting with the other.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, good. All right, and let's look at the next slide. Okay, so this is a little bit about the history. We looked at the checks and balances, but when we look at the history of the U.S., we start off with the Declaration of Independence and when it was signed, why it was signed, what was the war about, why was the Constitution written, and how many amendments have there been since the Revolutionary War. So what is the Declaration of Independence?
The declaration that declared ourselves as a free state.
As a free country. We wanted to separate from Britain, so that's why there was the Declaration of Independence that was written by Thomas Jefferson in the year 1776. And then we had a Revolutionary War, which means that we were fighting against British, and who won?
Hmm,
Who won?
um,
Us, right? The colonies won. Okay, and then we had the U.S. Constitution that was written, and there was a lot of controversies over writing the Constitution, but eventually, after the Constitution was written, there was a centralized government, and now because of that centralized government, we have a lot of the laws today that we didn't have at the time of when the British were here.
mhm.
All right, so there are how many amendments up to date?
27 amendments to the Constitution, known as the Bill of Rights.
Okay, so first 10 are the Bill of Rights,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay. All right, thank you, Isha. Do you have any questions for me?
No,
No? Do you have anything you would like to add?
no.
Okay. All right, thank you very much for being on my web chat. Hopefully we will have future conferences together and we'll learn some more. All right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you for being here and hope to see you again.
Bye.
Bye.